Here we are at Carol Reinlie's Imagination podcast, and my lovely guest today is Linda Minnick with Linda Minnick Consulting. And Linda, like many of you, ever since Linda could think on her own, she's been looking for the meaning of her life. I know the feeling. I think a lot of our listeners will know the feeling. Yeah. Linda spent decades trying to find an answer to that. Yep, I hear you. And as reflected back, she realized that she always knew why she is here. Linda's here to serve. And she spent many years finding ways to do so. In her life travel, she discovered that quality of service to others was limited to the happiness she was experiencing in her own life. So she realized her happiness is dependent upon the way she perceives her life and that her perceptions are based on her belief systems. She found ways to change her beliefs and therefore changed her life. Yay. And if you ask Linda if her life is perfect, she will respond, depends on the day of the week. But if you ask her if she's happy, she will respond with an enthusiastic yes. And knowing Linda all these years, I can definitely say that. She now dedicates her time and talents helping others move forward in their lives by changing their beliefs and their results. And one such belief being you deserve to be your true self and have a life you love living. She's a certified transformational life coach, a psychk facilitator, a sales trainer, published author, and speaker. How can Linda help you? So today we're going to talk about not happy with your life, change your mind. So I'm going to act like I don't know you and say, I know you do an energy process called psychk. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I don't know how many of our listeners might be familiar with it.
Yeah.
And I would love to learn more about it.
Okay. So like you said, it's a process. And what psychk does, it helps you identify and replace the limiting beliefs. I've heard some of our instructors say that changes the belief. I'm not quite so sure. Our subconscious is so complicated. I'm not sure it's just filing it in another file folder that says, well, maybe I'll use you again, but right now. So it helps you repurpose, the thoughts that you have. And it does so through a very easy process. We do something called a balance. And in that balance, your brain gets into a whole brain state. And this is something that's been proven by the neurologist at Johns Hopkins. And a whole brain state is when both your left lobe and your right lobe are activated. And when they're both activated and you plant a new thought, both of them accept this thought. So it's no longer an emotional thought or a logical thought. It's just a base thought. And so then you start operating from this thought. What I love about psychk, I don't know of anything else out there that's exactly like it, but it's an immediate change. It's a permanent change unless your intention changes, which we can explain if you need to do that. And it's easy and simple. And as a facilitator, I love it because the client controls the whole process. So I'm not feeding them I'm not telling them what they need to think. They're telling me. And then as we get into their subconscious leads them down the road as to where they need to go. So it's all led through subconscious, higher conscious, and of course, conscious mind. We cannot do anything. We cannot work with anyone who is not ready for it. The subconscious and the higher conscious will tell us whether or not what we're doing is good. And if it's not, we don't go anywhere. So there's nothing dangerous about it. It's all positive, and it's pretty amazing the results that you get.
Oh, wow. How long have you done it?
Well, I've been thinking it's 7 years, but it's actually closer to 9. Okay. Time flies when you're having a good time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When the conscious mind and subconscious mind are balanced, time flies.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So as far as like happiness in our life, I've been looking at this a lot, and I'm glad that you wanted to talk about this as a topic, because I think that after the last year that we've had, we
Yes.
won't say all of what that was. I don't even like bringing it up, but just in the scheme of things, I think it made people really look at their lives in a different way.
Yes.
And I think that everybody's kind of re-examining, hey, how have I been living my life? Have I actually been living my life? Have I been really, truly letting myself enjoy the things that are in my life, or have I just been rushing through it? I feel like we kind of are coming out of, which is kind of nice, where everybody was busy. Like it was important to be busy. And yes, we created a lot of things, but how was the quality of life? So can you talk a little bit about your frame of reference for that and what you do in your coaching with that? Sure. And have you had a lot of people going, you know?
I have to be honest, I was really surprised. I had fewer people who were panicking about the situation than were, like you said, looking internally and saying, oh, I can no longer blame the traffic for how much I hate my life because I'm not in traffic and I still hate my life.
Yes.
They're beginning to realize what their life really is because, I remember, in fact, it's funny. I was just doing a comparison I was doing my business books, as all of us small owners do. And I was comparing 2020 to 2019, and I was looking at my calendar. And when I did sessions in person, I would go to the offices that I rent, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it was an hour there and an hour back. Yeah. And I looked and I would block that out on my calendar, and I realized how much time I spent on 285 and 400. It's like, it turned out being like 8 hours a day. It's like I actually lost a day of work just being in traffic. Well, we live in Atlanta. There are hundreds of thousands of people that are doing that. Well, yes. When you don't have to do that, you've got 8 hours a week to sit and go, who am I?
Yeah.
And, so it's been an interesting situation. And a lot of people are beginning to, for lack of a better word, wake up. And, one of the things that we're waking up to is the fact that our happiness isn't necessarily dictated by external, conditions. It's the way we perceive those external conditions.
Yes.
And so when I'm working with my clients, it's like now they're realizing, like I said, that, it's not this, I'm still unhappy if I'm not doing this. So and when, Carol, I've come to learn that one of the reasons we become unhappy or, uncomfortable is because our spirit, for lack of a different word, our purpose of who we're really supposed to be, we're doing things that are against that. So, we've all had the situation, or most of us, there may be one or two out there who haven't, who we've lied to somebody because it might have been something we felt they needed to hear versus hearing the truth. Mm-hmm. But inside, you just felt really crummy telling him something that wasn't true because we're not built to lie, most of us. Yeah. So when we're in situations that we're doing things that our spirit says, this is not what you're supposed to be doing, it makes us unhappy, it makes us panic. And we were faced with a lot of that this last year. We were being told by outside sources how dangerous it was to go outside, and all of these negative things. So you need to do this. And it was against our nature. We were normally outside. We're normally communicative people. We're normally out there seeing people. Well, because it was against our nature, last year was a real test for a lot of people.
Yes. And I don't know. I personally just shut off most of TV and most of all of that. And I kind of got off social media, which I was on all the time. And I'm, that's somewhat part of my other business. And so kind of like, I just don't want to there was so much animosity. It felt like it just nobody was listening to anybody else and nobody could have another opinion. And I think there's still a little bit of that going on. Yeah. But I don't even get on there that much just for that reason, because I don't know how you reacted, but I didn't want to put my energy into that.
No. Yeah.
It just was not productive,
and what's interesting, and I think there are thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds, maybe millions of people that did the same thing. But what was interesting was before all that, we were so connected to getting that input from other people.
Yes.
That it was part of our daily lives. And what was interesting is like you finally, my grandchildren are in another state. So if I want to see what they're like, I have to go out on Facebook and see the latest pictures of my grandchildren. Yeah. So I ended up just taking my Facebook page and making it my family. And don't tell some of them, but some of them aren't on there. There were some of my family. I completely
understand that.
Yeah, didn't make the cut,
Yeah.
And I went out and I ended up watching a lot of baby videos. But the interesting part was my life continued.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people who stepped away from listening to all of that negative stuff, their life continued. Yeah. And what happens is you listen to that stuff enough, like you said, your body, your entire part of you says, this is not me. I'm not into all this arguing. I'm not into all this hate. I'm going to step away. Yes. And you felt more at ease away from it. Yes. Well, it's not just Facebook that does that or social media that does that. It's other things in our lives too. But so, you're right. I mean, disconnecting yourself from stuff like that definitely gives you a different point of view. And you then have the option to look at what's happening in your life and say, oh, I made this change and I'm happier for it. And if I can do this in front of my computer, can I do this somewhere else? Yeah, because what I found too is like anybody could say anything and make it significant. And is anything really significant? Like that's where I kind of got to the significance part of everything. Because I was like, what are we making so significant in our lives that isn't? Yeah. And really realizing that we're the most important thing and those that we love are the most important thing. Yeah. And for me, like I kind of learned wasn't the most important thing. Yeah. But it brought things to light there for me that I wasn't willing to look at. So I think probably everybody had a little bit of that. Some people call it shadow work or whatever. When we have something, we kind of put it in a corner over here and we go about our lives. And if we're busy, that can stay in the corner for years. Yeah. Well, and I think it also, a lot of people came to the recognition that they have an innate ability to determine the information that resonates with them. Yes. Yes. I mean, you're right. You can go on the internet or even, wherever you want to go and find different opinions of everything. Oh, yeah. And so now, since we've had such a huge example of that, because every day something was different, same subject, different results, same subject, different results, or different causes, whatever. And so now I think people are waking up to the fact that, oh, I can make my own decisions about these things. I don't have to depend on the people in charge to tell me how I need to think. Yeah, we're coming out of kind of like the age of the expert. Everybody had to be, I wouldn't call myself an expert ever because I'm just curious. Like, I want to learn everything. And I would never say that I'm an expert at anything whatsoever, but I am interested in a lot of things. And I do know a lot of information just because I'm curious, probably same with you. Oh, absolutely. Your personality. But it's like, I think we're coming out of that where, like you said, I don't have to look to the talking head on the news to tell me what's actually going on. And when all this went down and people have gotten pulled off here and pulled off there for different reasons of social media and YouTube and all that other stuff, it's like you can't really censor knowing, and you can't censor like a telepathy that we all have internally. Yes. Our internal, whether you want to call it your spirit or whatever that is, it's kind of like our GPS that we have right here. And, exactly. and in our gut, that where we kind of know truth. It's kind of like what you were saying earlier with, we don't like telling a lie. Yeah. Well, sometimes I think that
kind of what I was seeing is if it's said enough times, then maybe it will be true. Kind of like that type of thing. And then it was like nothing that I was seeing that felt true. And it's like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? I can only go with my own internal knowing. I can honor others when I go out in the world, but for me, like just and we all pretty much were taught about germs and other things of going out in public and touching things and all that other stuff. So it was just kind of a reinforcement with that. But I think it's actually, like you said, it's opened people's eyes. They're going more to their own knowing. And I'm sure probably in your coaching, you've helped guide people through that, because it's not a muscle we've been taught really to use a whole lot.
No, we're brought up to pay attention to like you said, the experts.
Yes.
To our teachers, to our preachers, to our doctors, and other, to our parents and all those. And so we're taught to let them influence our decisions. And at some point you have enough information. I'm not suggesting some 6-year-old should decide to be self-actualized and leave home, but at some point you realize they're not living your life. So they can't necessarily know what's really the best for you.
Yes. And many people can have opinions. As
that's right.
On all the social media, everybody's got an opinion about something, but it made me realize, like, the significance that we put on things and how that can stick us in life. Just seeing one side of it or not being willing to see the whole big picture.
Yeah.
I don't get that much into astrology, but I'm into Libra, and so I always laugh because people are like, "Oh, you kind of like balance both sides." So I was like, "Yeah, because I'm a Libra." It's like you see everything, so I'm willing to see it all. It's not that I will believe it all, but it's kind of whatever is true for me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure maybe listeners might have that as well, but
yeah.
I think we're just kind of rebuilding our whole way of life.
Yeah.
And I truly hope it's for the better. But as far as like happiness, I think people have looked at what they had defined as it, because I think also, and you can, put your input on it, and as well as like people had happiness out here almost. Kind of like authority, like everything's been out here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I win the lotto, then I'll be happy. When I get the new car, then I'll be happy. Well, then that thing happened and they kind of went on to whatever was next on the list. So can we take this time now and truly embody happiness?
Yeah.
What is that for you or your clients, or what you've seen with that?
Well, it's different for every client, but the one common theme, no matter who I'm working with, even if I'm working with myself, happiness seems, for me, this is what I've seen to figure out for me, and what I help others, walk into, is recognizing that, first of all, we have the right to be happy. I remember being younger and a little kid thinking that I'm not supposed to be happy because look at all these other people in the world who aren't happy. It's kind of like you should be satisfied with where you are, and you should be satisfied with what you have. No one ever said you should, and every time you might be happy with what you have. So I used to think I was really selfish for wanting to be really happy. But then I realized that, like I said, if I'm happy, I'm operating at a higher vibration. I'm operating more in my true self. And since I'm the only me here, there isn't anybody else that can operate at my higher self. I have to do it. So the more I step into my own true self, the happier I am, the higher I vibrate, the better I present myself to the universe, and the more benefit I am to anyone who's within my circle of influence. And so that's what I help my clients through. An example being, I work with a lot of people in transition, and age really doesn't seem to matter. But I had a gentleman who used to be a corporate executive with a big company, and he retired, and he got tired of retiring, and he was now 70. And he wanted to go back to work, and he wanted to work for a consulting firm. And so he was he came to me thinking, let me help me figure out what would be my true position, because I can do this and I can do that. And in the process, he told me about his life, and I kind of knew behind him. And I said, how many times a week do you play golf? He says, oh, I don't know, 3 or 4. And I said, and how many times do you and your wife travel? And he says, oh, now we go, to the beach, once or twice during the summer, once or twice a month, and we go visit the kids and all of this, so he's telling me about his lifestyle. And I said, we've already determined that you're not going back to work for money. You're going back to work because you want something to do. And he said, yes. And I said, if you get a corporate job, will you still be able to do what you're doing, playing golf and traveling with your wife and all these things? And he stopped and he says, no, I won't be able to. And I said, and which is more important to you? Working a 40-hour-a-week job or having the freedom to do what you really want to do? And he says, I spent 35 years working a 40-hour-a-week job. I don't want that. So, and so instead of becoming a consultant for a company where he was required to work their time schedule, he decided to do his own consulting where he had control of his calendar. Well, we all make decisions like that. I mean, we, throughout our lives, it's like, I need to make this kind of money, and this is this is the world that, the job I need to take to make this kind of money, or that's offering me that type of money. So I'll step into this position. But then I forget that there's this whole other realm of my life that needs to be in balance with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, it's helping people recognize, that you do have an option, and that, so when you step more into your happiness, and and it can start with getting, if you're working at home, getting yourself a new office chair, if that's what bothers you. You can start changing little things, but the higher you get in your level of happiness and satisfaction, you vibrated that. And that anyone who's been on this path knows that they physically, mentally, and emotionally feel better when they're not out of sync with who they really are.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of it also too is an inside job. Like, it's something that comes from you.
Absolutely.
Again, not something out here that we have to get. Like,
yeah.
I think that's the lie of this reality. that one of them, that it's all out here, and we've got to go get it. And it's like, it's almost been made into a game of chase. And really, the silly thing is, it's right here.
Yeah.
It's right here. When we're willing to choose it. We all have our days. I was thinking about that with the topic, because yesterday I was kind of hurt,
Yeah.
And I was talking to some friends, and we were laughing, like, what minute is it?
Yeah.
Am I happy? Am I joyful? I said, I know I'll be joyful. Like, I'm innately joyful, and there's not a whole lot that can kind of ruffle my feathers, but for some reason I'm just rare, today.
Yeah.
And I call it the rat race, We're going to have those days. The happiness isn't there all the time. And there's a reason for that.
Yes.
Like, so we can see the transition into the happiness. So we can really, like, there's a light of shine on the happiness versus, the other side of whatever, any of those emotions, other emotions that we have. But it's not going to be like we're skipping down the road every day, but there's reasons for that. So we have those epiphanies about, hey, maybe I do want to still play golf. Maybe I do want to still see my grandkids. I don't want to work a 40-hour week. And I think that people are now looking beyond the structure of what we used to have in place, of that you had to you go get the job, you stay there for 30 years. I don't think anybody in my age group has had that whatsoever. Like, whatsoever. there's not that. I was talking to a friend's dad, and he goes, yeah, I went with my friend. He was going to apply at this bank, and he told me maybe I should apply too. So I did, and I got the job, but he didn't. But I got the job, and that was the way he described his life. Like, oh yeah, by the way, and and he had this great life, and had a great career, retired, and now and he was just so funny about it. And I thought, wow, we put so many more steps onto that, like from all the baby boomer probably era of people that that you had to go do those things.
Yeah.
And now you have people that overnight could make $1 million. You have people that are doing just different businesses, thinking of working in a whole different way, and the sky's the limit. Like the sky isn't even the limit. Like there's an immense amount of different ways you can do it.
Oh yeah. The term that you can't do that is not being said as much anymore. It's like when I graduated from high school in South St. Louis, I mean, women at that point, a lot of women still weren't even going to college. Oh, you can't do that. You need to get a job and go to work. Yeah. And I know my parents had more limitations. You're right. I mean, as we've progressed as a society, I mean, I can't imagine what my grandkids are going to do.
Well, kids are so, like, I look at the kids around me and they're just so smart. They use their innate, and we kind of have gotten away from that. I'm moving back towards that of just having that kid's curiosity, Yes. And it's the funny thing with me was, my parents, everybody always told me you can't do that. And I was like, watch me. And then they realized like they had to use some reverse psychology.
That's right.
Kind of do whatever, like don't do that. Because they realized when they said you can't do that, I was like, I think I can.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have a whole family
business too. Because I remember my dad. I've now been had my own businesses now for 25 years.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad telling me that I couldn't do it. And then he came back like, I think 5 years in when I was really, my business just kind of took off, and I was shocked. And my dad said, you know what? I told you couldn't do that and that you'd never make money. And he said, and I just have to apologize because you proved me wrong just about in everything. Like, And he goes, and I'm glad. Yeah. Because that was just my frame of reference. He said, yeah, I was being narrow-minded. That my frame of reference was you go get a job, you work there and he goes, and I realized I was ready to get out of there after however many years that I worked,
Well, yeah, my husband got his degree in electrical engineering and got a job and was with the same company forever. And then our oldest daughter decided to get into entertainment, right? So she gets her degree and she gets her first job, and anyone who works on a movie or TV, it's only as long as they film. So if it could be 6 weeks, it could be 3 months. And I remember the first time she had a 6-month contract because her dad kept saying, you need to get a full-time job. You need to get, you got all these bills, you got to, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I remember she said, Dad, you're going to be really happy. I have a long-term contract. And he said, really, how long is it? And she said, 6 months. He said, 6 months. It takes me 6 months to sharpen my pencils. But what we realized as she was getting into this, she loved her job.
Yeah.
I mean, this is when both of us were still in corporate, and she loved getting up and she was excited. And no matter what job she had, she really loved what she was doing. And I said to my husband, I said, wouldn't you love to love what you're doing? And he says, yeah, I'm not going to give her a hard time anymore. She obviously knows what she's doing and smarter than I am. Yeah. So, but it's a whole different way of living now. Thank God. And
that's great. There's like unlimited possibilities and no significances.
Right. Right.
And it is like, you do light up. You do have that happiness when you're doing something you love. I've never been, and I think we did in the networking group that we were in together, we did a thing where people got up and said why they did what they did, and nobody says money.
Yeah.
Nobody said money. Out of like 40 or 50 people, nobody said money. Yes, we do need money to live, but I think most of us really would do what we love to do for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but I think as I've gotten older, I found out that you can get money anywhere.
You can.
I mean, if I really needed, I know that if I ever get stuck, I could just go to McDonald's or somewhere. I mean, I could make money anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
But where do I want to be?
Yeah.
To do that. And I also found out that the less stress I put on myself about making money, the more money I made.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as I was doing something I really loved and believed in, it was funny how the money came in.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's been also kind of a bastardization of a tie with money, even though we kind of need it in this 3D reality to live. It's like, it does come like, and I've seen people just make it like that. I've seen people lose it too. And I've lost it and made it that fast, but it's like, it's not there. It's the significance thing that the society puts on that.
Yeah.
That meets your happiness, and money can't make you happy.
No.
Now, spending the money might make you happy.
Yeah. You're just not shopping in the right spots.
Having more money to share and give money to charity and help people out and all those other good things like that can make you happy. But happiness is not going to come from that.
Yeah. Well, and you talked about the bastardization of money. I mean, I don't know how much of it is being taught now, but I was brought up that money was a bad thing. I mean, look at the rich people. They must, rich people are bad. It's like, I know some really nice rich people.
Yeah, there's good and bad with both.
Yeah, and part, most of my clients when they come in or talk about money, it turns out to be, it's not that they don't know how to make it. It's just that subconsciously they don't believe they should have it. So, and so hopefully our newer generations are being taught this is just part of your life, that money flows like oxygen, and it'll come into your life, and let's not put any stress on like money doesn't grow on trees and things like that we all heard growing up. It's like, if we don't instill that in our children or even in ourselves, we find it's a lot easier to come into our lives and stay if we want it to stay without losing it in a, that you have control of the flow, that you just don't lose it all the time.
Yeah, that you are this, because I know in the energy world, people were doing these like energy pulls for this and energy pull for that. I was like, we're that already. Like, we have that. And when we have that happiness and those joy and those higher frequency energies, to kind of put it in a woo-woo-y place. Yeah. It does just flow. And the world is abundance. It's kind of like what Abraham says, where they say, don't breathe, there's not enough air. You don't worry about that you can't breathe. Yes. The trees outside, now it's spring, so they're coming out depending on where you are in the world, if you're listening. Like, nature just is automatically abundant. Yeah. Well, we flip a light and we expect electricity to come on. We open our faucet, we expect the water to come out. We expect to be able to walk outside and breathe without a spacesuit, So why don't we put that same expectations on the other things in our life that makes us happy, including the currency that helps us create whatever, and live through this, this reality that we live in. And one of the things that helps us do that is recognizing that we are an internal being. We're energetic, like you said, we're an energetic being internally, and it's our own mind frame that makes us, the positive and the negative comes in. And so if we have a negative thought about something, and it doesn't have to be money, it can be love, it can be health, it can be anything else. If we have negative beliefs about that, whatever we believe, that's what's going to come in. Yeah. So
So if we can get to the point where we understand we're supposed to be innately healthy, we're supposed to be innately abundant, we're supposed to have these wonderful things going on in our lives, then those things are welcome into your life. I mean, they're always welcome, but they're welcome at a different level.
Yeah. What you focus on expands.
Exactly.
So if you're focused on living healthy, listening to your body, all those things, then the more you listen and kind of just be out there in the world, it's a frequency match, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and what you find is, what I have found and what my clients tend to find is, once you start changing your belief systems, once you recognize you have these distorted belief systems that aren't supporting what your goals and your visions are, once you start tweaking those, things start happening automatically, which is one of the interesting things about psychk is, once you change your thought, things start happening. And sometimes, clients will say to me, it doesn't work. And I said, oh, really? Let's review.
Yeah, they don't. A lot of times they don't see it. I get that too.
I was working with a lawyer who was trying to build her business and some other things. And one of the things she wanted to increase her client base. And she came in after a couple of sessions. She says, I'm not sure I'm going to continue. I just don't think this works. And I said, okay, let's review. And I said, tell me about your business. And she says, well, I haven't gotten any new clients on my own. And I said, okay, but what had happened is the reason she didn't have time to get clients on her own is another business. She partnered with another business and was able to take over this whole different practice. This man was retiring and sold her his business.
Oh, wow.
I said, so how many more clients do you have now than you did when we started? She says, oh God, at least 3 or 4 times more. I said, so you have more clients.
Yeah.
And she went, oh my God, I do. I have more clients.
Yeah.
It came in so naturally and so easily that she didn't realize she thought she had to go struggle for these new clients when she was putting this energy into expanding her business, expanding her life, expanding her business. This walk through the door. Thank you very much. I'll take that. We put it in. Now I need to go do this. And that's how we are. Sometimes we don't realize that once we change it, life just, you've opened the door.
There's an ease to it. That's when you kind of know that it's divine and it's really coming from that heart space of happiness and joy or whatever. There's an ease to it. And that's another lie of this reality that I want to say is that we have to work hard. I've worked hard my whole entire life, but I've also worked easeful. And I had a similar situation with a client. I had worked with him for about 3 months. And we were doing a balance of energy work. And he was trying to decide if he was going to close his business, maybe sell his business or go, what he wanted, or expand his business. Yeah. He couldn't decide. And he had worked it for a long time. So he could have retired. About 2 months in, he said the same thing, like, this doesn't work. This isn't working. And I said, and I did preface it with like, this might go faster than you think, depending on, what energetically will shift for you. So 2 months in, he says that. I don't think this works. Well, what's going on? Same thing. I have a friend who wants to take over my business, and he had kind of just decided that it was in 2 months rather than 3, because I think that we were working together for at least 3 months. And so, a lot of times we don't see, because we're also looking for it in the way that people tell us it's supposed to show up. Yeah. And that it's not supposed to be this easeful thing. Yeah. Or even we have our own expectations of how it's supposed to show up. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that too. I mean, and sometimes it's outside forces, but sometimes it's our own opinion, because that's all we've ever seen. Yeah. Yeah. We've only, one of the challenges I still have today is that I was in sales for 30 years. So for 30 years, I had appointments starting at 8:30 in the morning until 5 at night. And I worked 40 hours, like so many of us who have stepped out of that frame. And there's still weeks where I look at my calendar and it's like, your first appointment's not until 10 o'clock. What are you doing with your life? It's like, I'm sleeping. Yeah, sleeping.
I can
Probably,
do that.
yeah.
I've reached the point I can do that. But it's if we learn what our overall goal is, what are we really trying? You know, when you ask people about money, well, what are you going to do with your money? You want to reach this level of happiness. And if we recognize that we can reach this level of happiness and we allow the universe to support us with ways how to do that, it doesn't make any difference if that new car is red or blue. You got a new car.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And sometimes the universe brings us something that's much better than we ever expected if we allow it.
Yes. And so I always say, like, I would love this or something better, because my frame of reference might not have whatever could be out there for me.
Yeah.
You know, same thing. I think there was a story about a lady that wanted a new car. It was through one of the energy things that I've studied. And they were saying, like, somebody just out of the blue gifted her this beautiful red BMW, really nice car, but she wanted a white one. She was stuck on, I wanted a white one. And like, somebody just gave you a red. Right.
That's
so
right.
You can trade it for a white, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But like, you know, we could get stuck in, and that's where, like, your work is so important, of just the reframe of that, because we can get stuck on what hasn't shown up.
Right. Yeah. And it's, you know, the more we open ourselves to possibilities, the more exciting our life becomes, because not only, you know, if we practice opening to possibilities regarding whatever the topic is, that goes into other areas of our lives, and we open ourselves to opportunities in our health and in our relationships and all kinds of things. And all of a sudden life's exciting. Yeah. Because things are coming to you never expected.
Yeah.
But you do have to be careful, because when I do my group classes, or, you know, when I work one-on-one with people, I have them write down what their vision is. And so many people have challenges writing this down, right? And I was doing a class, and we had about 25 people, and it's a 7-week class, and the first 2 is, let's work on this vision. And I had about 3 of them who just couldn't put anything down. They knew they wanted to change their lives, but they didn't know exactly how. And I kept saying, you've got to put something down. And they said, why? And I said, well, because you're putting this energy into changing your life, but you're not giving the universe any idea how you want to change it. And so it's like pouring concrete in without any molds.
Yeah.
And so here they were coming to these classes. They were, you know, we were in class for 2 hours. They had an hour's worth of homework, and then they had an hour to do on their own. So they were putting 4 hours a week into changing their lives. So things were like, they were losing their job. Their pipes were breaking. Their cars were breaking down. Big things in their lives that would change their lives were happening, but because they didn't give themselves any focus to where to focus that energy, it was going everywhere. So you need to at least have a vision as to what you would like to create. And it does, you know, but like you said, this or something better.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
I'd love a new place to live. I don't want that to be the curb. You know, I'd like it to be a house.
Yes.
You know, maybe a house on the beach, you know, so you need to, when you start saying, I want to change my life, you need to have an idea of how you want to change it, because we are energetic forces. So if we give the energy nothing to focus towards, it'll just bring stuff in. You'll just attract stuff that you have no clue.
Yeah. And I usually, like, I think some people think they have to have the full story. Yeah. And a lot of times you can that's where I tell people, just start general. Like, if you don't have even a place to start, that's actually kind of cool, because you have a clean slate.
That's right.
Like, just start general. I want to be joyful today.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And then go from there, and you'll get the details in about whatever that is.
Yeah. Exactly.
So cool. Well, I thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to share Linda Minnick with Linda Minnick Consulting. Let me see. I'm going to tell people where they can find you. So you can find her at lindaminnick.com. She's on Facebook as Linda Minnick Coaching, and it's MINNICK. Instagram, Linda Minnick, and Twitter, Linda Minnick. That makes it easy. and Linda Minnick on LinkedIn. So I'll share when we post this, we'll share all the links to all of this. And thank you so much, Linda, for your time today. This has been lovely. And do contact Linda. She's amazing.
And so are you.
Thank you. And goodbye.